Very good afternoon, everyone. Today, on the occasion of 4th Foundation Day celebration of ICT-IOC Bhubaneswar, I would like to welcome our chief guest, Professor Seeram Ramakrishna, guest of honor, Professor Damodar Acharya, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor A.B. Pandit, former Vice Chancellor, Professor G.D. Yadav, Honorable Director, ICT-IOC Bhubaneswar, Professor P.R. Bhavya, Deputy Director, ICT-IOC Bhubaneswar, Professor Anand D. Patwardhan, TA President, Dr. Sankar Karmakar, former Director, ICT-IOC Bhubaneswar, Professor B. N. Thorat, and Deputy Director of Jala Campus, faculty members of we will start the program with the Vidyapeeth Geet.
Shri Rasayan Devi Ke is the university song Vidyapeeth Geet, which was composed by Professor G.D. Yadav, Vice Chancellor of the Institute of Chemical Technology, Mumbai, on 27th Feb 2012, the Marathi Bhasha Din. It was released on the occasion of the first Convocation Day on 6th March 2012 in the august presence of the Honorable Chief Minister, Shri Prithviraj Chauhan, the Minister of Higher and Technical Education, Shri Rajesh Tope, and the Chancellor, Dr. R.A. Mashelkar.
The theme of the song is to respect nature and be in harmony with it by adopting green, clean, and smart chemical technologies, and to serve humanity with complete sincerity. It also talks about a confluence of chemical sciences and engineering with biological sciences and a world with no pollution, be it land, water, or air. Blessings are sought for disease-free long life. The goddess Rasayan Devika is a symbiosis of the basic concept, and the words have been chosen so as to depict that ICT will add to the beauty and charm of the mother nature.
The song was equally composed and sung by ICT students Jitendra Tongaonkar, Ashwini Tilak, Swanand Gangal, Prasad Surve, Sharad Darandale, Aditya Koli, Amrita Bhavne, Rohini Tangsale, Nupur Rathi, and Zui Raut.
Now, I would request Professor A.V. Pandit, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, to address the ceremony.
Thank you, Angel. Today's chief guests, Professor Shriram Ramakrishna, Professor G.D. Yadav, Professor Vavia, Anand Patwardhan, all my faculty colleagues and support staff, and Shri Sarangi. It is great to be able to see you all, and thanks for arranging it virtually. Otherwise, it would not have been possible to do that. But I'm really delighted that you have chosen a theme, and this is the 4th Foundation Day. The time really flies. It's been 4 years since we started this particular activity under the leadership of Professor Yadav, and it has really taken up shape, and we have progressed significantly in terms of getting the land. The land allotment has been done, and now we are in a position of securing land and also start the construction activity. The objective of Foundation Day is usually to remember what we started this venture for. And it is a timely reminder that we have a specific objective in front of us, and that objective is to be met with collective efforts of all of us. And I'm very happy that Professor Vavia has taken up mantle and have a proper guidance with people like Professor Damodar Acharya, who has been instrumental in getting this off the ground and the way it has been progressing. As far as the progress of the ICT-IOC campus is concerned, in terms of academic achievements, in terms of scientific research, in terms of establishing analytical centers with all the sophisticated instruments, and with the permission from IIT Kharagpur, making the entire facility available to us in terms of all the buildings and infrastructure which is present in there. It is indeed a pleasure for me to be able to participate in this, and I'm glad that all of you have agreed to be with us, and Professor Shriram for accepting our invitation and addressing the gathering, addressing our staff, students, and faculty who are looking forward eagerly to your discourse or to your advice or to your direction in research. The topic which you have chosen is also very contemporary and is indeed the need of the hour. And I'm sure with this initiation, we will start some collaborative activities, which I'm sure are being done informally, but we wish to do something formally. And this is the right time to at least commit ourselves to improve and increase this level of interaction in a more quantitative fashion and show results at the end of 2 or 3 years. Next year, we'll be graduating our first batch. That is going to be the time where all of us will be in a position to say now that ICT-IOC has graduated students with a completely different orientation-based course, which is making students who are graduating with an integrated master's program. Either they are industry ready, they are management ready, or they are research ready. So the opportunity available to them with 5-year integrated trimester course is one of a kind in India as of now, and compliments to Professor Yadav for initiating all that and all the faculty for implementing it. It was quite taxing on part of faculty. I know the number of tests which they have to carry out, and equally taxing on the students as well. But I am sure, and I have seen that the students have shown that they are up to it, as well as faculty is very keen to assist the students. Let this particular activity continue, these efforts continue, and I'm sure every year we will have something concrete to show to the government of Odisha, to the central government, as well as those who are the stakeholders of ICT-IOC Bhubaneswar campus. I'm wishing, or I would like to wish all of you the best of the Foundation Day, all the very best, and wish you efforts bear more fruits in years to come. Thank you very much and wishing you all the very best and welcoming you on behalf of ICT Main Center and also ICT-IOC Bhubaneswar campus. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for such kind words. Now, I would like to request the Director of ICT-IOC Bhubaneswar, Professor PRCOE, to address the ceremony.
Hello and good afternoon to everyone. Am I audible, Angel?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
So formally, I welcome you all to the 4th Foundation Day ceremony. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor A.B. Pandit, Padma Shri, Professor G.D. Yadav, our former Vice Chancellor, Chief Guest of today's function, Professor Seeram Ramakrishna, Guest of Honor, Professor Damodar Acharya, the former Director, Professor B.N. Thorat, the Deputy Director, Professor A.B. Patwardhan, President, Technological Association, Dr. Sankar Karmakar, my faculty colleagues, support staff, invitees, and dear students. It has been mentioned that for any great work to be done, it is important to have the right foundation, which in turn forms the platform on which the future of students stands. On 18th March 2018, ICT-IOC started its journey. The inauguration ceremony of ICT-IOC was held on 18th March 2018 at the hands of Shri Ramnath Kovind, President of India. Unfortunately, due to connecting festival holidays, we could not celebrate this event on 18 March this year. On Foundation Day, it is a time to reflect on the beginning that took place and how, since the inception, changes have taken place to achieve success over the years. Institute management giving their best in uplifting the institute to the greatest possible heights and dimensions. On this day, I should not forget to thank the eminent dignitaries behind the development of ICT-IOC campus, former Vice Chancellor Professor G.D. Yadav, the present Vice Chancellor Professor Pandit, former Chairman of IOCL, Shri Sanjeev Singh, present Chairman of IOCL, Shri Srikant Vaidya, Director HR IOCL, Shri Ranjan Mahapatra, and the entire team of Indian Oil Corporation for their vision, commitment, resilience, and dedication in shaping this institute. As we all know that the world is passing through catastrophic situation as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, I would like to touch upon the developments undertaken at ICT-IOC in this different situation since the last Foundation Day celebration. I am happy and delighted to inform you that ICT-IOC has started offline classes for second year, third year, and fourth year integrated MTech programs and all 2 years MTech programs. Our PhD and postdoctoral students are also at campus and doing their research and trying to cope up with the time they lost during this pandemic situation. I would like to mention some of our few achievements and the information which over the last 1 year ICT-IOCL has achieved. Professor Anand Patwardhan, the Deputy Director, has joined on 1st December 2021 this institute as a Deputy Director. And myself, I have joined as a Director from 1st January 2022. Over the last 4 years, we have expanded our faculty strength. Now, today we have 19 faculties and 1 library assistant in this campus. Our support staff strength has also increased to 13, and we have at several administrative activity, we have staffs at ICT-IOC. We run courses at ICT-IOC, integrated MTech course 5 years. In 2021, we have admitted 58 students for this course. We also run MTech 2-year program in food engineering technology, petrochemical engineering, and pharmaceutical technology. We also run executive MTech program, PhD program, and postdoctoral fellowship in chemical engineering, physics, and chemistry. Some of the major extramural activity which was conducted in last 1 year, the new campus at Matipada was handed over as a land of 73.86 acre, and the former director, Professor B.N. Thorar, has conducted a Bhumi Pujan in presence of Minister Shri Dharmendra Pradhan. Some other activities which with the expertise of ICT, our own Vice Chancellor's technology of hydrodynamic cavitation, which we have installed at a Bindu Shakar lake, okay, for cleaning of water. We have also hosted, in collaboration with IICHE, ChemCon 2021 at Bhubaneswar. This particular ceremony was inaugurated by the Chief Minister, Shri Naveen Patnaik. Some of the other activities which we have conducted, Professor Damodar Acharya Endowment Oration was delivered by Professor V.K. Tiwari. Padma Shri Professor G.D. Yadav Distinguished Oration was delivered last year by Professor Samir Maitrigotri. Pramod Khosla Endowment Oration was delivered by our own Chancellor, Dr. R.A. Mashelkar. Professor B.D. Tilak Visiting Fellowship was delivered by Professor Jigna Parekh, and Dr. Mukund Chorgole also delivered a talk on sustainability in drug discovery using natural products. Our faculty achievements, Dr. Ram Babu has participated in Commonwealth Game 2022. Dr. Lisa Roy joined Chem as Early Career Advisory Board member. Dr. Saurabh Patankar has bagged the Best Presenter Award at Shanghai Corporation. He has also come out with an innovative UV sanitization box and developed PPE biosafety chambers for a COVID-19 sample collection. Dr. Ritesh Malani bagged the second prize in New Generation Ideation Contest 2021. Our faculty publications, right from April 21 to March 22, we have published total 79 publications in this academic year. Our student achievements are also name-worthy. Two of our students, Mr. Kaustubh Wadekar and Ritesh Reddy, has bagged the DED Fellowship, that is from the government of Germany. Kaustubh Wadekar and Ruturaj Sawant also received IICHE award Again, Kaustubh Vadekar and Ritesh Reddy were selected for nanomaterial project by JINR, Russia. American Institute of Chemical Engineering opens its Odisha campus, Odisha chapter, that is the student chapter on 26 February 2021. And the following ICT students have been bestowed upon a internship by the government of Canada, namely Ankit, Tanzim, Rohan, Siddharth, Kaustubh, Ritesh, Harisundar, Lalitesh, and Shaurya. These are the 9 students who have bagged this award, which is sponsored by the Canadian government for their internship for the year 2020. The research grants which are received by the various faculty members from different government agencies worth noting around 140 lakhs rupees for the last academic year. At ICT-IOC Odisha campus, the former director, Professor B.N. Thorat, is actively involved in the outreach activity in collaboration with various agencies. The FPO projects in association with NDCC and ICT-IOC supports NEFED activity, okay, where Professor Thorat was actively participating. With his leadership in the district of Korapur, UNDP projects was established for drying of onion. Now, here our approach is to support the villagers to increase the value of their products. So Professor Thorat and his team has initiated this activity using their drying technology and installed number of dryers at Koraput to dry the onions and improve upon their value addition. There are various other activities which are conducted online and offline. EC and AC committee meetings were conducted. We also celebrated 74th Independence Day. The admission 2021 was conducted at ICT-IOC campus with the help of ICT Mumbai team. The World Environment Day was celebrated. 75th Independent Day was also celebrated. And we also celebrated some of our achievements of the India, and the pre-conference meeting was conducted for the foundation stone ceremony. There are several facilities which are created at ICT-IOC present campus, like there are new equipments which we have installed recently: GCMS, supercritical fluid extractor, HPTLC, hot stage microscopy, hot air oven, BOD incubator, blenders, multimode dryers. And we also created a sophisticated facilities of instruments at CET, namely single crystal XRD, PXRD, scanning electron microscopy, liquid nitrogen plant, atomic force microscopy, and HRTEM. Some of our other students' activities which we conduct at ICT-IOC campus, some of our students, they participated in Chemophilia, Gateway to Success, Worldcraft Essay, and the workshops, which is Chemulate, which was hosted in November 2021. The ICT student also participated in ODR K-12 session on effect of natural disasters on climate change. This activity was conducted on 3rd October 2021. A national conference on recent advances in chemical engineering towards sustainable future was jointly organized by ICT with SVNIT and the student at ICT under the umbrella of AICHE conducted Swanirvan 2021 and 2022. Finally, I would like to congratulate the entire ICT fraternity on this memorable day. I am sure ICT-IOC will scale greater heights in coming years, and my best wishes to the faculty, support staff, and all the students. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, I would request the Deputy Director, ICT-IOC Bhubaneswar, Professor Anand Patwardhan, to introduce the distinguished guest of honor, Professor Damodar Acharya.
Thanks, Angel. Wish a very good afternoon to one and all. In fact, it is a very rare privilege to introduce such an eminent and tall personality like Professor Damodar Acharya sir, who is gracing this occasion today as the distinguished guest of honor. Actually, he doesn't need any introduction, but maybe for the first years and very few people who may not know him, let me complete this protocol. So, Professor Damodar Acharya did his BTech in mechanical engineering from NIT Rourkela, and then proceeded to MTech in industrial engineering and operations research, as well as doctorate from IIT Kharagpur. In all, he has about, more than 32 years of diverse experience, including more than 27 years of teaching and research at IIT Kharagpur, 5 years in academic administration, such as Vice Chancellor of Biju Patnaik University of Technology and Chairman of All India Council of Technical Education, AICT. Currently, he is the Chairman of Advisory Board of SOA, that is Siksha Anusandhan University. He is the former Director of IIT Kharagpur and former Chairman of AICT, New Delhi. Acharya sir has held several important positions at IIT Kharagpur. Just to name a few: Head of the Department of IEM, Industrial Engineering and Management Department, Chairman of JE, Dean of Shri, that is Sponsored Research and Industrial Consultancy, Chairman of VG SOM, as it is known in Kharagpur campus, Vinod Gupta School of Management, VG SOM. Apart from that, he is an active consultant to many world-class companies: Tata Steel, General Motors, Hindustan Unilever, Tata Chemical, just to name a few. Coming to his academic interests, sir's area of academic interest and research includes operations research, production planning and control, supply chain, and maintenance management. He is a fellow of INAE, that is Indian National Academy of Engineering, as well as National Academy of Sciences. He is a member of several professional bodies such as PRCOE, then Institute of Engineers India, IIE, that is Indian Institute of Industrial Engineering, and a few others. He has been an independent director in more than 30 industrial bodies. Then, special mention must be made that he was nominated as a director on the Central Board of the Reserve Bank of India in October 2012. And of course, not to forget, he is the recipient of the Distinguished Alumnus Award by IIT Kharagpur. Sir, now let me request you, Professor Acharya sir, to deliver your address and please guide us. Over to Professor Acharya sir.
Thank you, Professor Patwardhan, for your elaborate introduction. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Pandit, Honorable former Vice Chancellor, Professor Yadav, distinguished Chief Guest, Professor Seeram, Ramakrishna, Professor Bhavia, Director of ICT-IOC Bhubaneswar, Professor Thorat, former Director of ICT-IOC Bhubaneswar, faculty colleagues, students, and other invitees, especially Mr. Sarangi, who is here and who has been there right from the beginning. Okay. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to speak few words on this occasion of 4th Foundation Day of IOC ICT Bhubaneswar. I extend you a very hearty welcome, and I am really pleased to see that this institution, which started from nothing, has come up so well in spite of all its limitations of not having a campus of its own, trying to manage these things from whatever little space that IIT Kharagpur provided. And the students are accommodated in some other hostel, and the facilities are also scattered, something in CET and something in that institute, IIT Kharagpur Bhubaneswar campus. Still, you have been doing quite a bit of actually work so far as I could see, and being a person just located here, I have some idea, so therefore I take advantage of that. Now, also, it is very nice to see what Professor Yadav started as a unique program in this country, that is 5 trimester integrated MTech program, where the student has to spend alternate trimesters in the industry in solving the real life problem. Hopefully, this unique program will become more and more popular, and maybe the whole country will really adopt it. Similarly, this nascent institution, it started program called actually Executive MTech program in chemical engineering, where the practicing engineers are studying here on chemical engineering. I'm also very happy to say that another executive MTech program we could really think of doing it, and that is actually in the area of safety and environmental engineering, which is very, very important for states like Odisha and the type of industries which are there in Odisha. And I just had a discussion with the authorities of IIT Kharagpur the other day. They have also a safety engineering school, so they are willing to collaborate with ICT Bhubaneswar, similar to what we have done in chemical engineering, provided we just make a sort of a request to them that such a program actually we could start, and it will be really a unique program in the country also. Now, looking at the so 4 years back or little beyond that, when myself and Professor D.P. and Mr. D.P. Misra, we used to go to Professor Yadav saying that ICT has been the anchor institute for growth of chemical industries, petrochemical industries, petroleum industry, pharmaceutical industry, textile industry in whole of, say, Western India. So can it not become actually a sort of anchor institute in the East, where all such industries are not there, but they will definitely come up, say, and it is actually this philosophy which IOC really also accepted, so also this government of Odisha, in so far as providing the fund by IOC and providing other facilities including land, etc. by by government of Odisha. And the institute has really come up well. And it is also heartening to see that in Odisha, for the first time, a big pharmaceutical industry is actually coming up. And that pharmaceutical industry is by Bharat Biotech. And with Professor Bhavia here, a doyen in the pharmaceutical field, I hope that many more such industries will come up, and this will become Odisha will become a pharmacy hub of the eastern part of the country. Of course, a lot of things are happening in petroleum, petrochemical, and particularly gas-based industries, and even textile industry, particularly technical textiles in Odisha. And we should be in a position, ICT should be in a position to take the leadership here and provide the necessary technical support, because we do not have such technical manpower in this part of the country. So definitely this will be considered as a sort of opportunity for our ICT Bhubaneswar campus. And as the things goes on, it is absolutely necessary for us to look for, say, a sort of circular economy, blue economy, so that many of the waste materials could be really recycled to get valuable products. And also in the blue economy, particularly taking advantage of the huge coastline, ICT Bhubaneswar should come out with some programs and some projects to exploit the mineral resources in sea coast or sea for the benefit of actually the mankind. Maybe these are some of the new things which could really happen. And few MTech programs we have started. I believe more such programs will come, and many more projects also could happen. So, and what I see that our students and the faculty, they have done extremely well, and I must really congratulate them, and particularly the first batch, which is the pioneer batch, who will come out actually within a year's time. They should be able to really set a standard or milestone for the future. On this actually occasion, I really congratulate all the faculty, all the leadership, and the students, supporting staff of ICT Bhubaneswar, where in spite of all these limitations they have done exceedingly well, and the future is bright. I'm 100% sure it will come up very well. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to speak a few words.
Thank you, Professor Acharya, for such a kind-hearted speech. I would request Professor Anand Patwardhan to introduce the chief guest, Professor Seeram Ramakrishna.
Well, thanks again. So I get this double opportunity today. I'm double lucky to introduce two stalwarts, really. It's very rare to have such an opportunity on a single day, or rather a single year sometimes. So Professor Seeram Ramakrishna is here, who is gracing this occasion today as the chief guest. And personally speaking, it is both quite overwhelming as well as humbling experience to introduce such tall personalities. Professor Seeram Ramakrishna received his doctorate from the University of Cambridge, United Kingdom, and the GMP training from Harvard. He is FR Engineering, Oration Chair, Senior Professor of Materials Engineering at NUS, that is National University of Singapore, Chairman of PRCOE, then Editor-in-Chief of the Springer Nature Journal, Materials Circular Economy. He'll be talking about that topic today. And of course, he is the Director of Center for Nanofibers and Sustainability. Professor Seeram Ramakrishna is recognized amongst the world's most influential scientific minds and top 1% highly cited researchers. I'll repeat this: world's most influential scientific minds and top 1% highly cited researchers in material science as well as cross-fields categories. Just to give some numbers, Google Scholar shows 135000, yes, you heard it right, 1,35,000 or 135,000 citations, I-10 index 1154, that is 1154, and ict index 167. Well, additionally, yes, so many accolades to his name. I have very difficult to summarize his profile. He is a co-author of an award-winning book titled An Introduction to Circular Economy. Then he has also authored a UNESCO report titled Knowledge-Driven Actions, Transforming Higher Education for Global Sustainability. Prof. Seeram is a member of EPR, Advisory Committee of Singapore Ministry of Sustainability and the Environment, MSE. Then ESG Committee of Singapore Institute of Directors and ISO TC 323 on circular economy. He is the chairman of Sustainable Manufacturing TC at IES and Plastics Recycling Center of Excellence. Well, I'll quote some eminent person what said about him. European Commission Director General for Environment, Excellency Daniel Caleya Crespo said about him, and I quote, Professor Seeram Ramakrishna should be praised for his personal engagement, leading the reflections of how to develop a more sustainable future for all. I'll just repeat this line. Professor Seeram Ramakrishna should be praised for his personal engagement, leading the reflection on how to develop more sustainable future for all. He is an eminent resource person for universities, companies, governments, individuals, and many international organizations. So, let me request you now, Professor Seeram Ramakrishna sir, to deliver your address today, which happens to be Professor G.D. Yadav, ICT-IOC Foundation Day Oration. So please do that and guide us. Please, Professor Ramakrishna sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Anand. Let me share my screen. And I want to check you're able to see my screen.
Yeah, it is visible.
Oh, wonderful. Let me begin by thanking you, Professor Anand, Professor Pradeep, Director ICT Bhubaneswar, for inviting me. GOH, Damodar Acharya, leaders of ICT family, including ICT Bhubaneswar, staff, students, all the attendees of today's lecture. I like to echo GOH praises to the ICT Bhubaneswar. From the humble beginnings, you progressed significantly and rapidly, which is an evidence of your hard work and passion. Today, it is my privilege and honor to deliver Padma Shri Professor G.D. Yadav, 4th Foundation Oration. He's a good friend of mine. We also advise Indian government through World Bank on higher education. Right after this meeting, we will be actually going to that meeting. So it is my honor and a privilege to share my enthusiasm. The topic given to me is Roadmap for Achieving Circular Economy Goals in Developing Economies. This is a topic very well chosen, timely, highly relevant to the ICT. ICT is about chemicals and materials, In my presentation, I will demonstrate to you through the concepts of emerging circular economy, we need to reinvent chemicals and materials. In other words, there is enormous scope and potential for ICT to reinvent chemicals and materials for the betterment of 1.4 billion Indians, as well as 7 billion people on the planet. These are my contact information, and I have more than 140 slides, but time given to me is 40 minutes. Do not worry. I will share a copy of my lecture so that you can view them at your own pace. But I like to stay within the time given to me so that we have time for a Q&A. Circular economy is best understood with the lens of India. India is actually a frugal nation. You all know Professor Mashelkar talks about it, who is also involved with the ICT Mumbai development. I quote from one of the recent paper from India. Traditionally, Indian economy has been one where reusing, repurposing, recycling has been second nature. In a world that is increasingly running out of natural resources, this thinking is an asset, must be leveraged by businesses, policymakers, citizens in an organized manner and expanded into include other elements to make the economy truly circular. I believe it's very well composed. In other words, we are talking about how not to become a throwaway society, how to become a circular society. I have chosen 3 topics: textiles, food, and housing. Let me confess, GOH Damodar Acharya and I did not speak before about focus of my lecture, but he was essentially saying ICT focus over the time in textiles, food, and pharmaceuticals is extremely important for the development of the region in the East. I do believe chemicals and materials need to be reinvented in these 3 important areas. I could cover many topics, but since the time is limited, I intend to focus on these 3 topics and give you some illustrations. Those who are the students, beginners of circular economy and sustainability, allow me to give you a brief introduction. It all began about 50 years ago, 1970. It's called Club of Rome. Several scholars from around the world were invited to Rome and deliberate about the limits of planet Earth. So 50 years ago, they projected that planet Earth do not have sufficient resources to support growing consumption and growing population. And here is an example, 1970, we only have 3.7 billion people, and they were requiring 27 billion tons of resources from planet Earth. 2021, population more than double, requiring 4 times the resources from planet. In other words, we are testing the planetary boundaries. Those who are familiar with the NGOs, they talk in terms of how many Earths we need to support the growing consumption and growing demand for resources. we simply need more than one planet Earth. Last 10 years, many governments around the world negotiated intensely what they call United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And more recently, most governments endorsed carbon neutral economies by 2050. India recently announced by 2070 would like to be carbon neutral. So is China, so is the United States and European Union. That includes Singapore. So the broad message for ICT colleagues is the world is fundamentally changing. There is need for reinvention of chemicals and materials if you want to attain carbon neutrality by 2050 or 2070. But there is also another important aspect. Carbon neutrality alone cannot be achieved by switching to renewable energy and carbon energy efficiency. We also need to think in terms of reducing per capita consumption of materials, or what we call material footprint, because materials production contributes to 20% of the global carbon emissions. So in other words, carbon emissions are intricately linked to the materials production. 4 weeks ago, in Nairobi, United Nations Environmental Assembly, comprising close to 190 countries, agreed to put limits on the production of plastics on the worldwide basis. In 2 years from now, all the governments would endorse production limits. So in other words, ICT, like institutions, have to invent materials and chemicals to realize carbon neutral world, to realize set targets in terms of reducing production without compromising the quality of life of human beings. So there's enormous research, innovation is needed. So to make it more clearer, these are the definitions of sustainability. The other one is circular economy. Sustainability is about meeting the needs of the present without compromising the needs of the future generations. On the right side, circular economy is an economic system that uses a systematic approach to maintain circular flow of resource size by regenerating, retaining, or adding value while contributing to sustainable development. I'm part of the ISO committee, which is coming up with the new standards on circular economy. So these definitions are taken from the standards we are drafting. So sustainability could be understood in a simple way. Instead of taking a car, one could walk, one could cycle, you reduce the carbon footprint. Circular economy is very important. Reason is linear economy, which we have been practicing for the last 100 to 200 years, is quite damaging. As you can see at the bottom, in a linear economy, we mine resources from the planet, make products, use them, we dispose them, causing pollution-based resource depletion, harmful health effects. But on the top, in a circular economy, you do not waste resources. It's a very important slide for ICT colleagues. Material circular economy is needed for 3 reasons. Reason 1, to reduce the carbon emissions. Reason 2, to enhance the material circularity and reduce the waste. Reason 3, we want to eliminate chemicals, material related, unwanted human health effects. In the subsequent slides, I would show you those three examples. So circular economy follows or emulates biological circularity exists in the nature. Now I'm going to go faster, Anand, so that we have time for Q&A. And I also have to cover 100+ slides. Okay, so those who are at the policy level, essentially we are talking about a circular economy enabling you to realize these sustainable development goals. And those into the manufacturing, those into the materials and services and products, essentially circular economy involves raw materials, manufacturing, use, repair, collection, recycling, even the design itself. For all of my slides, there is a reference at the bottom, so you can actually refer those articles for a much detailed understanding. So this is the United Nations reports talking about circularity in different sectors, focusing on plastics, electronics, and chemicals. So let's focus on textiles. Within textiles, again, there are three important directions. One is circular economy aspects, medical textiles, and intelligent textiles. I don't have time, but I'm sure ICT is focusing on all three of them. Textile sector essentially involves a variety of polymeric fibers, which are natural as well as synthetic. Synthetic fibers are much more exponentially growing. And in this slide, we show you that 10% of the carbon emissions globally attributed to textiles. That's the reason textile sector is under the microscope for reinvention. And this is a typical materials flow diagram of textiles. As you can see, very small percentage of textiles is actually recycled. Most of it is incinerated, landfill, leading to other problems like microfibers, microplastics, affecting the marine life and eventually the human life. So why is this happening? If you look at on the left side, it's a comparison of fast fashion that is happening in China. 20 years ago in China, more than 200 times they use a particular garment. 20 years later, they only use it for less than 60 times. So that's exactly what's going to happen for India. As India becomes prosperous, and people like to change their lifestyle, they would be more wasteful. And textile waste is going to be a major problem for India. So these are more details. And here is the different stages of value chain of textiles: fiber production, yarn production, weaving, knitting, bonding, bleaching, dyeing, finishing, assembly, and consumption. And you see which countries are active in which part of the value chain and supply chain. Obviously, India is prominent. So these are more details. I wouldn't go into the details, but essentially you could break down and see textile manufacturing, where yarn manufacturing, India plays a big role, including garment manufacturing. And that's where require a lot of innovation for circular economy transition. These are more details involving kind of pollutions that are associated with them. And these are numbers to give you about the typical t-shirt and the jeans, what we call fast fashion, and amount of energy, CO2 emissions, and water consumption. And this is more different material systems. So if you are involved in polyester, you know what you need to do in terms of reinventing polyester or recycling polyester. So these are the typical processing stages. These are the typical recycling concepts. And so I want to illustrate what's going on globally. In Europe, now they're actually becoming much more stringent, and the products need to come with a digital passport with lots of information. And this is where exporting countries like India have to pay attention. On the right side, you see France has a law which will not allow any company to discard unused clothes. So in other words, the world is changing, external world. So India manufacturing industry has to reinvent itself, not only for India, but as the rest of the world. Extremely important. That's why I said ICT in the next 50 years, there's an enormous opportunity for you to contribute. And here is an example of Alpine, which is a company which is looking at the hemp fibers, how they use circular economy concepts and promoting more sustainable products. And what we call extended producer responsibility scheme, we introduced this in Singapore. I'm advisor to the Singapore government on this policy. I'm very sure many other countries are introducing extended producer responsibility that actually complies all the manufacturers to take the responsibility. In other words, industry is forced to make the transition. Similarly, the retailers and consumers. And these are more standards we develop. And this is how we do it. Similarly, people are talking about other goods like leather. There is a sustainable leather. They are, instead of going to the animals, you could produce from the plant-based leather, right? And you could see Adidas, one of the large sporting company, how they market their products using a low carbon emission products. So now bringing back to the message to ICT, there are more than 350,000 chemicals manufactured by human beings, and they're used in a variety of products. In textiles alone, there are 1,900 chemicals, and 165 are classified as hazardous. Now imagine once these regulations come in, more awareness comes in, we need to reinvent chemistry. Okay. And here is an example. We work on fabric cleaners using nanoparticles and proteases that are derived from natural organisms. And that's how one can go about is our own research. Similarly, one could think about a nanotechnology where you come up with the formaldehyde-free coding systems. These are the coloring systems. Now I'm going to go faster because these are the examples. And you could see, you could do many, many things into this coding technologies. A lot of interesting stuff. Similarly, I'm a specialist on electrospinning. You can imagine making a very large scale nanofiber fabrics. On the right side, there is a video. These are actually garments, high performance garments. These are sold in the market. It is promoting materials efficiency. That means you use less material. So those are the test standards. I also help out with NGOs in South Africa, especially for women health. We look at better sanitary systems using improved material system, which are durable, biodegradable, hygienically clean. And we're also looking at other issues. We consume lots of energy in the tropical countries. That's because of the tropical weather. So imagine if you have fabrics that are cool, and can we make these fabrics using natural materials and make the body temperature lower? Answer is yes. So that you can imagine how this can be made. Even a face mask, all kinds of face masks. This is how we use natural derived materials. And these are actually real products, how we make them, how we use them. These are analysis and more details. Okay. Yeah, I'm just going faster. They're also into the sports goods, one could imagine. And you could also use natural materials like collagen. Yeah, here is the collagen-based systems. And they could be used in many applications, in garments, wearables, more of them. Yeah. Okay, so that's basically to tell you, including shoes, one could imagine better shoes. And again, how the cooling concept works, and those are the reports. Now, plastics is a subset of, textiles is a subset of the polymer industry. And there are a variety of polymers. These are the major polymers. Again, recycling rates of polymers is very low. And lots of plastics are thrown away. And there's a recycling industry of different sort is coming up. This is in South Africa. This is an example I like to show. less than 10% of plastics worldwide is recycled. So there's a huge problem with the plastic accumulation in the nature and health effects on the human beings. That's why next 2 years, there would be global agreement on reducing the production of polymers worldwide. That would actually also impact Indian manufacturers. So this is a typical plastic production by region. And so one could imagine going towards substituting fossil fuel derived plastics with the biological polymers, and also looking at newer recycling methods, in this case, what we call biological recycling, so that you can enhance the circularity potential. This is a company I mentor in Singapore called Acharya. We are looking at packaging, all the textiles. We look at recycling full-scale solutions end-to-end. Now I switch to food because we need to make sure I'm within the time. So who doesn't like food? And there are all kinds of brands. I just want to tempt all the people there. This is a chocolate people like, especially the young people. And if you notice below, even the chocolate manufacturers started putting eco labels. Yeah, so there's an eco labels there. So food industry is also paying great attention to circular economy. On the left side, we are talking about what are the challenges in food industry. On the right side, how one could go about building a circular economy concepts in food industry. So in Singapore, we have a large Chinese population. We use chopsticks. Again, in this case, she started a chopsticks collection and she reproduces products from there and how much she collects them. Similarly, we are talking about substituting meat that is actually harvested from the animals, which tend to have higher carbon emissions as well as other issues. Now we are actually moving towards plant-based, lab-derived or lab-produced synthetic meat. So it's a huge transformation is happening in the meat industry. And again, this is associated with a better environmental credentials. That's a classical example. It is a kind of catchy marketing. A vegetarian butcher. So it's actually a butcher, but a vegetarian. It's a burgers now available. I'm sure they're available in India too. But it has completely lab-derived or lab-produced cell-based meat or plant-based meat. So one could imagine introducing digital technologies, which India is extremely strong in different aspects of food management. And this is different technologies one could imagine. So now I move towards housing. Within housing, again, the household, we use many things. In this case, simple dishwashing liquids. And now we look at green potential, or what we call green labeling, which I'm involved in Singapore standards development. We look at all kinds of chemicals that go into household items. But more importantly, even the building and construction sector itself, there's an opportunity for materials efficiency. Here is an estimation by UN, agency UNEP. They have shown China and India, which is shown on the right side, if you redesign the materials and the building sector, 60% of the emissions associated with construction and buildings could be reduced in India and China. So that's why there's going to be huge innovation expected in the building and construction sector. And again, to give you numbers, there are two kinds of emissions. One is the emissions associated with operating a building. There are emissions associated with construction of a building. So both requires innovations. And these are more numbers. I would not go into the numbers, but if you are interested, you can look at them. This is how buildings industry innovating themselves in a variety of ways. For example, I work with a company called AkzoNobel. They have a paint, they paint all the buildings and infrastructure. They're better in terms of environmental credentials. Again, it's a polymer chemistry and applying new knowledge and nanotechnology. So you could imagine reflective paints, cool paints, as well as many other ways you invent. There's an example what we call material selection. We had to look at embodied carbon intensity of materials. Interestingly, wood or natural materials has a much better credential than aluminum and steel. Again, for centuries, India has experience of using wood. I'm sure that traditional conventional knowledge will be very useful in designing future buildings. Well, it's just an example, a 4,600 years old boat, which is 42 meters long, 20 tons in base. It is in pristine condition in Egypt. So wood is quite durable. So there's an opportunity to reinvent construction materials. So this is how we actually design green cities. It has a lot of parameters. And so in summary, I want to go forward. Circular economy involves many things. That also involves scientific research and education. And there are lots of new jobs are coming up. According to the World Resource Institute, for every $1 million you're going to invest in circular economy thinking, there's a lot more new jobs will be created. So worldwide, trillions of dollars are being invested now in circular economy. So obviously, it's an opportunity for India. I'm part of the UNESCO team expert group where 12 of us met more than a year. We came up with how universities should do in terms of embedding sustainability and circular economy in their curriculum, teaching and learning programs. So if you are interested, you could download a free copy that's available from this website at the UNESCO. I believe it's very useful for ICT family. So I think Professor Bharat, he knows he works with Arun Majumdar, my good friend, my colleague formerly. Well, he produced this nice diagram which talks about drying technology and sustainability. He showed if you want to approach and innovate a simple drying process, you need now to approach it in a transdisciplinary or multidisciplinary way. In a way, it's the same. Circular economy is a multidisciplinary, transdisciplinary research domain, requires expertise of many, many disciplines for innovation. So take an example, when EU is coming up with the European digital passports for the products that are sold in the European market, you need a variety of innovations. So these are digital technologies. India is extremely strong. I'm displaying one of the company I collaborate, it's called Zomra. It's a sensor-based automatic sorting system. And they're everywhere, including India. And imagine a textile, which comes in different colors, different kinds of material systems. How do you sort them automatically? So here is an automatic sorting system. And we use ultraviolet system. And you could UIS, NIR detection system, you could automatically detect them and use a conveyor system. You can separate them. This is how automated plants look like. And there's a huge potential for a number of industry players using automated sensor-based technologies. One could also go towards many other labeling, polymer labeling, because you need to label the polymers at the molecular level, later on at the garment level or the plastics level, eventually the product level. There's a huge opportunities for innovative, high quality science. These are how you do that. So if you are a fan of digital technologies, what we call Industry 4.0, there's a huge opportunity for them. You are deeply involved in nanotechnology on the right side. Again, there's lots of opportunities, and there's an opportunities for all of them to contribute towards a circular economy. So when we achieve all these dreams, eventually we'll have products like this. This is Panerai, a Swiss-made watch, which has 99% recycled materials. That has everything like steel, titanium, silicon, plastics, and whatnot. So imagine such a complex device is made from recycled materials. So you can reimagine all the products and services in India. So if I have given you any reasonable interest and you're more interested, you're welcome to read these books, which we have put together recently. You're also welcome to read other books by other great authors, and you will get more details about circular economy. You can reach out to me at that email address, WhatsApp, or LinkedIn. Again, I'd like to take this opportunity, express my deep, heartfelt thanks to organizers, as well as Professor Pradeep, all the esteemed audience, leaders of ICT family, members of ICT family, and all the audience. I wish you all good future. Hopefully we will have a more circular future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Hello, sir. Yeah. Thank you for such an interesting presentation regarding circular economy. We have some questions from the audience. One is from Dr. Patankar. He is asking that what is the correct way to go forward with pushing sustainable products or processes from academia to industry? Is it compliance with evolving stringent legislations or demonstrating profitability in cleaner processes to industry?
Let me get the name. Thank you, Saurabh. I think the answer is actually both. Reason is industry only seems to move when there is a legislation which is guiding them, and the legislation could be incentive type or penalizing legislations, which is what the experience of many countries around the world. While the legislations drive them, ultimately all businesses have to be profitable. So obviously your innovation from the laboratory should have both the lenses, but it could be approaching one first if it is too daunting to accomplish both the requirements. You might comply with the regulation. Profitability can come later through the scaling up. So our experience is legislation allows us an opportunity for new players, new technology. Then once you start scaling up, the companies would make profits. So, but if you are a researcher looking at how do I even go about it, I suggest develop a concept of life cycle thinking. So if we can get a good understanding of life cycle thinking of the product, a life cycle design, then you would be able to find your own way of innovating whatever you are doing, and then align yourself to what's happening in the real world. So life cycle thinking is a very good approach to emulate and then pursue that.
Thank you, sir. There is another question from Professor Patwardhan. He's asking, what is the role of solar energy in circular economy in the long run, say about 50 years from now?
Thank you, Patwardhan. Actually, most industries right now, what I've seen around the world, they say they're doing circular economy, but what they have done is they are substituting polluting energy sources with the renewable energy sources. Obviously, solar energy is considered as a renewable energy. So many industries, they are switching energy source to a renewable energy. That's how they are actually portraying. But my lecture also tried to convey the message that is not a complete circular economy. That's only a part of it. Real circular economy requires circulating the resources, so which is basically material resources, how to be circulated. And so with the next, in 2 years' time, all the governments will be endorsing the limits on the production of materials, just as the carbon emission limits. They all said by 2050, they will limit the total carbon emissions in each country. Similarly, material footprint will be asked to be lowered or curtailed. In other words, circular economy requires you to adopt renewable energy, energy efficiency, materials efficiency, and material substitution.
Sir, there is a question from one of our students.
Yeah.
He's asking, will energy-based companies align circular economy initiatives with climate goals or continue to treat these as discrete initiatives?
Thank you. So what I've seen, we have in Singapore, I take a Singapore example. 60% of our emissions comes from Jurong Island, which has all the energy companies, major energy companies, refineries. You could imagine something like Reliance, which you are very familiar in India. We have similar large companies here. So all these companies like Shell, ExxonMobil, they announced they would have a carbon neutral transition by 2050. So in other words, they are started investing in technologies that would make them much more carbon neutral with time. So I have a feeling energy companies, while they are meeting the demand of the population as well as countries for immediate needs, they're also parallelly working on transition towards a more neutral industry. So if you are an investor or you are looking for, or you are a lifetime working in industry, first thing is you can understand what their plans are and how they are betting on a specific technologies which are scalable. And if you like to switch your opportunity, you can transition slowly towards that direction. The answer is right now, both the ships are happening. Both ships are traveling parallelly. Energy industry is still growing because the demand is still high. Second is there is also enormous pressure on them to be carbon neutral. And they also made announcements saying that they would be carbon neutral. So obviously they will be held responsible for that.
Okay. Sir, there is another question from one of our faculty. He's asking to kindly share your views on how we can move from linear economy to circular economy, considering the Indian food and agriculture sector, where we have challenges like small farm holding capacity, poor farm mechanization and process facility, and lack of political willpower.
Thank you. Well, it's a big problem because food and agriculture immensely important for India because 60% of the population still in agricultural sector. So one cannot take it lightly. And second one, food and nutrition and agricultural sector, very broad and wide. There are many players involved, many industry players as well as the non-industry players. If I'm a researcher like you, I would look at some of the pockets where you could make a difference. For example, fertilizers. There's enough evidence now, chemical fertilizers have sufficiently damaging the soil. And there is a need to go toward biofertilizers. People are talking about advanced technologies like nano biofertilizers, just one idea. You could also think of improving the yield of the agriculture. You can also think of nutrition, processing industry also require a lot of innovation. But you also raise another important question is, if there is no willpower in the policy making, how would this pan out? My sense is India, we know for many years, with all its policy challenges, India is still growing, and India is a serious player in the world on the world stage in many sectors. And right now, I believe circular economy is actually favorable to India. The reason is population is familiar with the concepts. Second, there's an opportunity for radical innovation. So you don't need to follow the previous technologies dominated by other countries. You can jumpstart to the new areas and you can come up with your own unique technology or innovation platforms.
Okay. I think we can take one. Sir, Professor Pandit has one question, I think.
Seeram, interesting lecture. I really enjoyed it. Just a couple of issues. I worked with Professor Bhavik Bakshi looking into a network of industrial ecosystems. And essentially the circular economy is a part of it based on the exergetic alliances or exergetic analysis. General conclusion is the more we move away from our rural settings to urban settings, more wasteful we become. You go to rural settings, as you correctly pointed out, we have been born and brought up that way to recycle, reuse, repurpose, so on and so forth. But the moment we move from our rural setting to urban settings, we seem to forget those concepts. And then basically we know we have done it earlier, but somehow in the modern education, which we get so-called professional education, doesn't give importance to these issues. What is your take on that?
Absolutely, you really put the nail on it. So this is what we debated 18 months in the UNESCO, where we said, there's a lot of traditional indigenous knowledge that is somehow not absorbed into current day and age. I give an example. A couple of years ago, I went to Tibet, and it's very cold for me because I'm living 3 decades in Singapore, and it's here we're always 25 to 30 degrees. Where I went there, it's like minus something, and I was shivering. Then I went inside one of the monastery. There's no aircon. There's nothing, no heaters either, nothing. And I said, hey, what is the magic here? They said, look at the window. It doesn't look like a window, but it's actually a window. So what they have done is they've taken a straw. They have their own straws, and it's like 1 or 1.5 meter long ones. That is the thickness of the wall, but that's actually a window. So this there's a stack of straw or the plant stems. They stack such a way the air somehow doesn't get too cold, and you can live very comfortably. Absolutely. I was completely shocked when I saw that. I took a picture. Normally, I use that in my lectures before. I could, several examples I have seen in many other countries, like in South Africa, Argentina, other places. So there's a lot of good indigenous concepts there. One need to kind of understand with the lens of modern science, explain it, and probably build some models around it, and then make it scalable. For example, I'm actually building one university in Nepal. Means I'm basically advising them from scratch with ADB funding of $120 million. I told them from the day one, all your buildings should be sustainable. And so design such a way is actually locally derived materials. The construction methodology is highly sustainable. So they're actually doing it. If next time, if any of you are interested, I will organize a visit for you, in Kathmandu. So they'll be very happy to have you guys. And of course, they could even collaborate with you because you are such an eminent institution.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Just one last question we can take. It's from Dr. Sonal Ayakar that is there any metrics to quickly estimate the efficiency of circular economy? And can there be a circular economy that is not sustainable?
Okay. So recently we are working on ISO standard 59020. If you like, send me an email. I will share you the working draft where we have come up with different parameters, how they should be measured and how you should be weighted, and eventually what we call assess a circularity performance. Yeah. So this standard where now it's a committee draft stage. We can share with you, not a problem, because I already have permission to share it. So I can share with you. So there is a framework, there is a methodology, which you could use it. Your question is, are there systems that are not completely circular? Yeah, I think actually it's not so easy to be fully circular. There is always issues of loss of thermodynamics, energy balances, material balances. So requires a lot more innovation. I give an example. Most people say plastics are recyclable if you do it well, but most plastics, you can't recycle more than 3 to 5 times, even if you recycle it. What happens after that? So this is a problem, right? So that's probably the challenge for ICT colleagues. Well, go back to the molecules and redesign the molecules, come up with the polymers, they can be recycled forever.
Yeah.
Then you solve the problem, but then it's not an easy problem.
Thank you, sir. One last request is from our Shri Sarangi, sir. He's the Associate Dean Industry. He's just requesting that can our students do internship with you?
Yeah, sure. I welcome them. And the NUS, right now, I think last 2 years, with the COVID-19, they did not allow because of the managing the COVID-19, but now they started opening. Yeah, not a problem, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Karmakar, and thank you, Professor Seeram Ramakrishna, for such an insightful presentation on curricular economic goal in developing countries. I believe that the audience will benefit immensely from today's session. Now, on behalf of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor A.B. Pandit, I would like to request Dr. Sankar Karmakar to felicitate the guest of honor, Professor Damodar Acharya.
Professor Acharya, please accept it on our behalf.
Chief guest, Professor Shriram Ramakrishna.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Shriram, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. And I think this interaction continues, and we'll be very happy to collaborate and start some joint programs where we can share our learnings and do things together. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
Thank you. I welcome the opportunity to collaborate, and I wish you all a good future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I would like to request Padma Shri Professor G.D. Yadav, former Vice Chancellor of ICT, to address the ceremony.
Thank you so much, Professor Sriram. It was a wonderful eye-opener for all researchers who are working on circularity of materials. And so one of the things which I just want to bring to your attention, that we are all committed to net zero by 2050. My personal belief is that technology advances at such a faster rate that we may achieve it even before that. Notwithstanding some of the problems associated with circularity of some of the materials, because the thermodynamics plays a very important role. But anyway, the global peace and prosperity will be there. By 2050, we require something like 49,000 terawatt hours of energy. 73% of that will come from renewable resources, and of that, majority will be solar energy, wind energy, maybe part of the nuclear energy. Still, there will be coal used, okay? And you have hydro and whatnot. And hydrogen economy. There will be a lot of hydrogen, and that will be almost 25% of that will be green hydrogen. There will be blue hydrogen as well as green hydrogen. That is going to happen. What is important in that is, when we talk about this, let us talk about one simple thing. You started with textiles. 1 kg of textiles requires 100 liters of water. And that water contains all these dissolved dyes and whatnot. So with so-called ZLD, zero liquid discharge, we have to develop technology. Then what happens to the dye? What do you do of that? Do you burn it, incinerate, or do you reuse it? And what is that technology? That is $1 million question, whether it is technical, textile, or anything else. In terms of food, which you talk, very important thing, because we all love food. Arguments say by 2025, we will have population of 8 billion people. And assuming they eat, say, 3.5 meals per day, and every meal, even if you an average waste 1 gram of food, that will be equivalent to 25 million tons of food per day. can we convert that particular food into some form of energy or recycle? What are you going to do with that? That is another important option for food. And in terms of, so-called green cities, smart cities, debris, what do you do with the debris? So much of debris, we have to reuse that. We have to have materials which will have both inorganic and organic components, which is composite material. So we need to develop all those technologies in order to have the so-called green future for us. These are very, very important problems. I chair a committee of Department of Science and Technology on waste management. And we are asking people to come up with solutions, simple solution like red mud, for instance, or the hospital waste, another, or the agri waste which the farmers are burning. And we are talking about going for, so-called biofuels, right? Personally, we did this analysis. I have published a paper also in Clean, Technology and Environmental Policy, that we cannot, afford to have biofuels. The so-called biofuels should be used for materials and chemicals. Like ethanol should not be burned as ethanol, but ethanol can be a source of ethylene and all other chemicals, because we found in our analysis, which is that paper is, downloaded more than 7,000 times. Very interestingly, that you can produce more materials, valuable materials, than burning it. Because yes, there we should have, for example, solar, wind, geothermal, whatever. And what government of India, envisages that we will have something like 450 gigawatt of solar power in future. That requires $500 billion investment. And who is going to invest that? So these are some of the questions for the policymakers, and we have to work on that together. That is what is. So academia is going to be very exciting, because you can find out solution. You can tinker with old technology. But as an optimist, I believe if a problem is created by one technology, another technology must solve it. That is the history of technology. So I am personally against banning plastics. You mentioned that, there is a less use of plastic, but can we not reconvert that? And in the hydrogen economy, this I say, I can convert any plastic with hydrogen and oxygen. If you split water into useful chemicals and materials, starting with monomers and whatnot. So we need not go, but only thing is a collection and segregation. So I give a simple solution. Like in India, you perhaps know that every household, there is a newspaper boy coming and dropping the newspaper. And the housewife never throws that newspaper. She will collect it in the form of waste newspaper, and it is recycled. Very interesting, right? So if we have, for example, milk pouches or any other polythene bag, but only because it is free, we are throwing it. If there was some deposit on that, say 1 rupee, and when you give it back to the the producer or the shopkeeper, and you get all your money back, digital economy. Or suppose some boy comes to your home, like a newspaper boy, a plastic boy, and collects that, he segregates it, because all the money in recycle and reuse of municipal solid waste is on sorting it out. So you suggested some of the ways of how to segregate it. So it's a simple solution. Ban never works across the world. Then there will be bootlegging and what. So these are some of the points, on which we must think, and the policymakers must think. And so your lecture was really fantastic. I'm honored that you accepted this and gave this wonderful lecture. And I'm sure you will collaborate with ICT. And like Professor Pandit said, you are always welcome to ICT. Okay, and whenever, and of course, Damodar Acharya Sahab also said you come to Bhubaneswar. So ICT in 3 different places, you come, fly in between, and meet friends, like me, who will be very happy to, share our experiences. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your time and experience with us. Now, I would request the TA President, Dr. Sankar Karmakar, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Angel. First of all, I would like to thank Professor Shriram Ramakrishna for honoring us by his gracious presence on this occasion of the 4th Foundation Day of ICT-IOC Bhubaneswar. Thank you, sir, for taking time out from your busy schedule and introducing us to the inspiring world of circular economy. I would also like to thank Professor Damodar Acharya, who had been one of the strongest pillars for this institute since its inception. As aptly said by one of the sustainism enthusiasts, in the end, the term circularity may just be one way to make us aware that we need a more encompassing, integrated, and restorative sustainability path that includes people as much as technology and nature. So the people part over is very important, and I can proudly say that we have come a long way with the help of stalwarts like our former Vice Chancellor, Professor Padma Shri Professor G.D. Yadav, our current Vice Chancellor, Professor A.B. Pandit, the Honorable Director, Professor P.R. Bhavia, the Deputy Director, Professor A.V. Patwardhan, and our former and founder director, Professor B.N. Thorat. I'm also thankful to the Director and Deputy Director of ICT Jalna to be present over here and grace us with their presence. An institute is not only built by just bricks and stones, it is built by the people in it. And I'm thankful to the faculty, staff, students, and the parents who are and always will be an integral part of this institute. I would like to conclude by thanking everyone who are present over here in different digital platforms such as Zoom as well as in YouTube. And thank you for supporting us and be a part of ICT family. Thank you all.
Thank you, Sankar. Thank you.
Just a minute, if you don't mind, all of you, my request to all of you to please stay on. And I request for 2 minutes because we have a guest from ICT-IOCL, from the chairman. They have come here and they are presenting on our foundation day a bouquet of flowers and the cake. So I would like maybe just to take this screen recorded.
Sorry,
Thank you so much.
Screenshot.
Professor Pandit, I will request on behalf of you this flower of bouquet which is sent to us by Chairman Sir, Vaidya Sir.
Vaidya Sir, yeah.
Yes, on our foundation day. And Mr. Satpathy from IOCL, General Manager from Indian Oil, is here and he is greeting us. And they have also sent us the cake, which I will request all my students just send the cake here.
Yeah. Keep a piece of it. Just in the keep a piece of it in the fridge. I will come eat it next time I visit.
Just cake. So we will go down in there. No, just we can just take a picture and then we'll after. So nice of you. Thank you so much. Sir, we have also received the cake.
Thank you, Satpathy sir. Thanks a lot. Yes.
The chairman sir has sent the cake and we will assemble here at the post.
Please do
all
the
our
honor.
Student and we will cut the cake.
Please do the honor.
Thank you all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shriram. Thank you, Dr.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Eat the cake. Enjoy. Eat the cake.
Yes, enjoy.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Close the meeting.
Thank you.
ICT-IOC.
It was such a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot. Thank you, Shriram. Thanks a lot.
Sir, one request I have. Just before leaving, can we put everyone's video on so that we can have a digital memory?
Thank you all.
Screenshot, yeah, please screenshot.
Take a
Please take a
screenshot.
screenshot. Yes.
All of you, all 80 people. on
Yeah,
behalf
you
of-
can remove your mask, Professor Thorat and colleague. Remove your mask. Yeah.
Yeah. Satpathy.
I'll request all the, I see some first year students and I think Soumya Ranjan is here. Some of the names I am not familiar. So across the board,
You
please.
may have to take
put
few
your videos
photographs.
on.
Few
Please,
photographs.
quickly.
Just scan it through and
Yeah,
get
I think there are 80 people, I think.
Professor Smita Lele is also seen there.
Yeah, Smita madam.
Hello.
Yes, Smita.
Please put your video on. We are having a
It's
screenshot.
on. It's on.
Angel Jain.
Angel, you can start your video. Start your video.
So my video is on.
Good, good. I see Vijay Sane also. Good, very good.
Sane is here.
Two photographs. Scan it.
Dushmant, kindly take the screenshots.
So I request all those who are present at ICT-IOC campus to assemble at the ports. Please.
Great.
Okay. Professor Vavia, you can eat 2 pieces on my behalf.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Professor Pandit.
Well, thank you. Enjoy the day. Enjoy the day.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, bye.
Now, on Smita Madam's behalf, I will eat.
Hey, he hasn't given you permission.
I'm taking the
No,
permission.
keep it at -18. It will stay very long.
Yes, that is the foods person speaking. Yes. Okay, sir, all of you. Acharya, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I now pronounce this session to end.